Hello JCA, welcome to my Sunday in the kitchen. I'm so excited to cook for you this recipe. First of all, it's so easy. Nobody can say no to chocolate chip cookies, right? Everybody loves chocolate chip cookies, and this is the easiest recipe. You could make it with your kids, you could make it with your whole family. I know many of you are celebrating Christmas this coming week, and cookies is one of the things that everybody's asking me for recipes for. So please join me and watch how easy this is and why it's healthy. So let me show you what I started with so far. And why these ingredients are healthy for you. So in here I have coconut flour and honey. So right away we're starting with whole unprocessed ingredients. Now why is that healthy for you? Many people will tell me, well, I feel like I'm eating, low calorie, and I'm looking at the grams of fat and grams of carbohydrate, and cutting back on all these calories and stuff, and I'm still struggling to lose weight. And oftentimes that issue, the problem there with cutting back calories and cutting back grams of fat and grams of carbohydrate is that then you're choosing foods where they have to replace those flavors and those textures and tastes with processed ingredients. When your body is eating, when you eat something that is a processed ingredient, a chemical or compound that was put together in a laboratory, your body will react to it the same way it reacts to a flu or a virus or breathing in a toxin or a pollutant, and that causes inflammation. Your body says, oh, we don't recognize this ingredient, and we don't recognize this germ or this pollutant that we just breathed in, and so whatever we're doing with food is going to get stored as fat while we focus on this ingredient that we don't recognize, and we try to get rid of that from the body. So when you look at all the foods that say low calorie or no calorie or low fat or no fat, those kind of things, look at the ingredient label, because oftentimes what they are doing is they are replacing those tastes and textures with other chemical compounds that your body does not recognize. And when your body doesn't recognize something that you ingest, it will store the calories as fat while the body is focused on removing this foreign ingredient from the body. So if you actually think about whole unprocessed foods, for example, avocados, nuts, those foods are really high in fat and really high in calories, but they don't cause weight gain because your body recognizes them as food. Your body recognizes all the healthy vitamins and minerals and proteins and fats that are in those foods, and your body knows how to use those for healthy processes and functions that your body needs. So rather than causing inflammation, it helps your body have energy and have a happy mood and have a healthy digestion. So I recommend, if you're struggling with weight loss, forget about cutting calories and grams of fat and grams of carbohydrate, and instead focus on choosing whole unprocessed foods that the way they look in the store is the way that they were found in nature, and your body will recognize those ingredients as whole vitamins, minerals, proteins, fats that your body needs. And so rather than causing weight gain, your body will use those for the healthy processes and functions that you go through every single day. So that's what I love about this recipe that I'm making for you for today. Every ingredient in here is whole and unprocessed. So some things that you will not see in this recipe is white flour. Think about how many processes flour has to go through from the time it was picked in a grain in the ground until the time it looks like white powder that you buy and have in your house. They already had to take out all the parts of the fiber that was in the grain, the original grain, and they really just saved one little part of that original grain, and they, processed it to make white flour. So that is a highly processed food. So when I talk about choosing whole unprocessed foods, white flour is one of those ingredients that is highly processed. So is sugar. And if you think about how sugar, not only is it a highly processed food, but both of these foods, white flour and sugar, will cause a triggering your body to release insulin. And we can go into a whole nother conversation about insulin, but when your body is triggered to release insulin too often, that can cause inflammation as well as blood sugar dysregulation and things like that. So you won't see white flour or sugar in this cookie recipe. And those are two ingredients when you are searching online for dessert recipes, cakes and cookies. Try to choose recipes that are not high in white flour or sugar, but instead using things like honey or maple syrup. And coconut flour and almond flour are less processed because they don't have to take parts of the almond away. They just literally mash it up to make flour. So those types of flour are less processed, and your body knows how to use them, and it will not cause inflammation and will not cause you to gain weight. So these are the types of things that I would look for as you're searching for dessert recipes. Try to find recipes that are using those sweeteners that they look in your house the way they were picked in nature. Maple syrup, honey, and then same thing with the flours, almond flour, coconut flour. These foods are less processed, and like I said, your body will recognize them. Your body will use the healthy vitamins and minerals that they have, and you won't gain weight. So this recipe is so easy. You literally just mix together the honey, the coconut flour, and if you haven't used coconut flour, I highly recommend giving it a chance. When you open it up, it has this delicious smell of baking. Like the minute you smell it, it's so delicious. It smells way better than white flour. It even smells better to me than almond flour. It really is so good. I love it. And then there's 2 eggs. And then besides that, it's the chocolate chips. I chose dark dairy-free chocolate chips. Anytime you eat chocolate, I always recommend choosing chocolate that has greater than 70% cacao. Cacao is a super healthy ingredient. It actually has some of the same components that green tea has. So you've heard so many times how green tea is so healthy for you, and dark cacao has those similar ingredients. So I love dark chocolate, and these chocolate chips are right around 70% cacao, non-dairy. So if you're kosher, these cookies will be perfect after a meal that you're eating meat. You don't have to worry about having any dairy in there. Other ingredients that are in this are some vanilla extract, some salt, and a tiny bit of baking soda, just to make sure that it leavens. And then some coconut oil. A coconut oil is another great unprocessed food that you can use to cook in really high temperatures, because coconut oil has a very high smoke point, so it won't burn when you are cooking at a higher temperature in the oven or on the stovetop. So what I've already done is preheated my oven to 350 degrees. I've also put a little layer of coconut oil on the bottom of my stainless steel pan, just so that the cookies don't stick. And I love cooking with stainless steel because that is one of the cooking vessels that does not cause your food to leach heavy metals and other unwanted compounds and chemicals into your food. So stainless steel and cast iron are the two types of cooking vessels that I like to use. Okay, so in my bowl here, I have my honey, my coconut flour. I'm going to just crack open these 2 eggs that I have here. These eggs are, I believe that the brand is called Vital Farms. And, oops, sorry about that. I love Vital Farms eggs because they come from chickens that were cage-free, fed healthy, grass-fed chickens, pasture-raised, and they're allowed to roam freely. So when you are choosing your eggs or your meat products from animals that were allowed to roam freely and they were grass-fed and organic, then those animals they have anti-inflammatory compounds within their meat because they weren't stressed and they were eating healthy food. So when you eat those animals, then you're getting those anti-inflammatory compounds. You're getting the benefit of the way that those animals were raised, as versus having meat from animals that were grain-fed and caged and were stressed out. And in those scenarios, you're getting more inflammatory compounds from those meats. So I highly recommend choosing, animal protein and eggs from animals that are grass-fed and pasture-raised and cage-free and organic. And that's why I love these Vital Farm eggs. Let me grab a fork to scramble or mix up these 2 eggs. So just to remind you, in my bowl over here, I have honey, coconut flour, and here I'm just mixing up my 2 eggs. And what I love about all these ingredients so far is they are whole, unprocessed. Did you know honey in particular is actually a really healthy ingredient? It is antimicrobial. So if you ever have like a cut or something on your skin, or you have a rash or something that you're being careful that you don't want to get infected, you can actually rub honey on that, and that will help reduce the inflammation and prevent infection. So honey also does not trigger the insulin response in your body that sugar does. So your body does not react to honey the same way that it reacts to sugar. So any recipe that you can replace honey for sugar, I highly recommend doing that, or even maple syrup. Maple syrup does not have those same antimicrobial functions as honey, but it still is a much more healthy option versus sugar. Okay, so I'm going to mix together my eggs, my flour, my honey, what else am I gonna do here? Oh, and then also I have already measured out 1/4 of a cup of coconut oil in here. So that goes here. And after I mix together all of these ingredients, I'm going to be spooning them out onto my oiled stainless steel pan, so that will really help, so that I already used a little bit of coconut oil on the pan so that the cookies won't stick, and coconut oil also adds a really nice flavor. Let me go wash my fingers. So the recipe calls for me to mix together the coconut oil, honey, eggs, and vanilla. So I think I'm just gonna use a little more vanilla. The recipe asks for, I think, 1/4 of a teaspoon, but I especially love vanilla. So I'm gonna do 1/2 of a teaspoon. I don't think anybody will complain about that. And I actually love using either vanilla extract or almond extract in so many of my recipes that I need to add a little bit of flavor. I even add those extracts to my smoothies. Give me 1 second, let me cut this open. Those extracts are a good way to creatively add some good flavor to any of your baking products. I add it, like I said, to my smoothie. Okay, let me see if I'm doing everything good. So now we're just gonna mix all this together. All right, we're moving along here. So what I think about eating these kinds of desserts is that as long as they are packed with those healthy, whole, unprocessed ingredients, your body is going to get a lot of benefits from any food that when you buy it in the store, it looks the way it looked in nature. Any food that you buy in that form, your body's going to do well with. The only time that you start having to worry about the calories and the fat grams and all those things in your desserts is when they are coming from foods that are processed. So that's what I was talking about already before. But food with white flour and sugar, those are usually the ingredients in most of our desserts. And those are the ingredients that your body, because they are highly processed, they're missing the healthy fibers. They have, sugar triggers that insulin response, and all of those are the reasons why people struggle with desserts, weight gain, and inflammation. Okay, so we're moving right along. This is coming together. The next step here is to add the salt and the baking soda. Okay, so if you notice, there's always a tiny bit of salt in all of your sweet foods, because even though they're sweet, that really gets, the salt really helps the flavor come out. So some salt, some baking soda. I think it's just 1/4 of a teaspoon. And honestly, this is so simple. You could literally have your kid do a lot of this. And it's a fun way to celebrate the holiday this week if you are. Whoops. Glad I did that over that. Okay. There we go. And then 1/4 of a cup of chocolate chips, but I don't think anybody will complain if I go over that amount. So I'm just gonna eyeball that. I think I did go over it. That's totally fine with me. And that's it. That's literally the entire recipe. So that is why I believe it's healthy, because every ingredient in here, the way you buy it in the store is the way that it looked in nature. And that is how you know you do not have to count the calories. You do not have to worry about the grams of fat. There are benefits in every single one of these ingredients. Like I mentioned, the honey is antimicrobial. It does not trigger insulin release the way sugar does. It acts in the body completely different than the way sugar acts in your body. So honey is healthy. It's actually used oftentimes for people if you have rashes on your skin, or mosquito bite, or a cut, and you're hoping to not have it get infected. You can use honey to rub on there to help those issues. Eggs are super healthy. Eggs have choline and ingredients that are good for your brain, the type of cholesterol that your brain uses. So eggs are super healthy for you. Dark chocolate has the same ingredient in it that green tea has. That is anti-inflammatory and antioxidant, so healthy for you. And really that's it. That was the entire recipe. So I'm going to spoon this into little, let me just make some room for myself over here, into cookie shapes onto my already oiled, I used coconut oil at the bottom of my pan, and I'm just gonna like put together. Let me see if I can actually use a different spoon for this to make it a little easier for myself. And I also think to thicken it, I'm just gonna add a little extra coconut flour. And like I said, if you haven't yet tried coconut flour, I highly recommend it. It smells so good. There is something about coconut flour that the second you open it up, it smells like dessert in the house. Oh yeah, this is definitely better, I think. Okay, and it's, like I said, this is so easy. You can absolutely have your kids working on this. All right, let me use a bigger spoon. There we go. All right. And this is gonna go into a 350-degree oven for just about 15 minutes. So super easy. And that's it. That was the whole recipe. We do not have to count calories. We do not have to count grams of fat. We do not have to worry about carbohydrates when we are eating whole, unprocessed foods. So I really want you to remember that. That's like the key to everything, is just choosing foods in the store the way that they looked in nature. All right, well, I'm gonna finish up spooning this out. While I do that, I wanna tell you about a January New Year's challenge that we are starting. I believe it's January 15th, and you do have to register for that. But each week I'm going to be challenging you to complete a new task with regards to your nutrition and your diet. And I am super excited to start that challenge. I believe that I think it's 8 weeks, and I probably should have to look at those rules one more time. But in that 8-week period, I truly believe that we can transition your health, yours and your family's, teaching you how to ensure that you are optimizing your diet for long-term health. So register for that, and at the end of the 8 weeks, we are going to hand out a free nutrition session to one person who has completed all of the tasks and all of the challenges. So not only will you, improve your health and the health of your families, but you will also have an opportunity to win a session, a nutrition session with me. So keep your eyes open for that challenge, and register for that as soon as you're able. I really look forward to that, and hopefully we'll have some good opportunity to interact and be engaged with each other. You can ask me your questions, share recipes, share ideas, let me know what you're struggling with, and we can sort of work through those throughout those 8 weeks. So keep your eyes open for that. That should be a lot of fun. Okay. So what I like also about this is that I didn't make too many. So for just me and my husband, we'll have plenty of cookies for a couple of days. So I'm gonna stick this in the oven. All right. I am so used to having recipes that I don't even have a chance to finish in the half hour. So it's pretty nice to have an easier, simpler one that that I was able to stick in the oven and should be ready in a few minutes. So I'll be posting pictures of what those look like. But let me just, as a reminder, tell you what was in these really simple chocolate chip cookies. I used coconut flour, so it is gluten-free. These cookies are gluten-free. If you have any intolerances to gluten, then you can certainly enjoy these cookies. I used honey instead of sugar, which honey is healthy for you. It does not trigger the insulin response that eating sugar does. It's also antimicrobial. It can be used to reduce infection on your skin if you have any rashes, things like that. But it is healthy, and your body will use the nutrition and the nutrients in honey different than it does sugar. So highly recommend that instead of sugar in any of your sweet desserts. I used eggs from chickens that were cage-free and organic and pasture-raised. So eggs are super healthy for you. They have an ingredient called choline, which is really good for your brain, super good for you. Then I just used a little bit of vanilla extract, a little bit of salt, a tiny bit of baking soda just to make sure that the cookies like sort of leaven. I used dark chocolate. So anytime you're eating dark chocolate, I recommend choosing chocolate that has more than 70% cacao. It actually has the same ingredient in it that green tea has. And I know you've heard of how healthy green tea can be with its antioxidant and anti-inflammatory component. And dark chocolate has that same similar ingredient. So very healthy for you, and I recommend. And that was really it. Coconut oil, those were all the ingredients I used. So you can see that as long as you're choosing ingredients that are whole and unprocessed, your body will know how to use all of the ingredients in those foods. Your body will take from it the vitamins and minerals and healthy fats and proteins, and know how to use those for the healthy function of your body, rather than when you're choosing foods that say low fat or low calorie or low sugar, and they replace those tastes and textures with compounds that were put together in a laboratory, and your body does not know how to respond to those. So the calories that you do eat will get stored as fat, while your body focuses on having to remove this foreign ingredient. So choosing foods that are marketed as low fat and low calorie are not always the answer to losing weight, because those ingredients are unrecognizable to your body and will cause inflammation and will cause you to gain weight. So instead, choosing foods, even if they're high in calorie and fat, like avocados and nuts, when your body knows how to respond to those ingredients, they will not cause weight gain. Your body will take from those foods the healthy fats, proteins, vitamins, and minerals, know how to use them. They will not cause inflammation, and you will be much better off. So that's what I like about this recipe for chocolate chip cookies, and that's what you should keep in mind when you're searching for dessert recipes in general. Ones that include things like honey instead of sugar, coconut flour instead of white flour. All of those foods are less processed and recognizable by your body, and your body will use them in a healthier way. So I hope that is good, helpful information for you to think throughout this week, as we're going to be choosing desserts for some of the holidays you're celebrating. So think about that when you're searching dessert recipes. And if you want this exact recipe, certainly write in the message or in this post for this recipe, and I will send it over to you, no problem. And keep your eyes out for that 8-week challenge that I mentioned before. That's going to start in mid-January, and each week I'm going to challenge you to a new healthy eating routine that after those 8 weeks, I think will truly help you and your family be on a better, healthier routine with your diet. And if you follow through for all the weeks of the challenge and you register for it, you will have a chance to win a free nutrition session with me. So I hope that was helpful for today. Enjoyed it. I can't wait to post pictures of these delicious cookies when they come out. And have wonderful holidays and a happy new year if I don't see you. And I will see you next time. Bye, everyone.